This is the most important part of the evening. You thought the auction was. It was not. It is now. Right on your tables, there is a pledge card. And I want you to take that out and take a look at it, because this is how we can continue as a Bible college. We don't get federal assistance. We don't have any endowments. We have friends like you and people who believe in the leaders of tomorrow. Let me give you 3 reasons why this portion of the program is so incredibly important. That is this. 3 reasons. Number 1, we are no longer living in a world where Christianity is welcomed, inviting, something that people open their doors to, like in the early 1900s or even in the 60s or 70s, where people of Christianity, no problem. Now it's like we are a remnant of the people that once were just naturally the way people thought. They thought with ethics. They understood that morality was a starting point. Now it's the reach point. Morality is not the starting point now. It's we do our own thing and you affirm me in whatever I want to do. Because we live in a country now where affirmation is something that people are addicted to. And they don't just want you to tolerate their lifestyle. If you don't agree with me, then you'll get my wrath. And so we live in a whole different world. They used to call the promised land Beulah land. And I say it this way, we don't live in Beulah land anymore. This is Egypt. And we have to think differently. And the reason why Pacific Rim Bible College is so important is because we have to teach young leaders how to think differently now. You can't reach people like they used to before. You just can't have a crusade and tons come. You've got to rethink everything. We are not living in Beulah land. We're living in Egypt. And we got to figure out how to reach the people of Egypt. And you see in the newspapers, you see all around us, you see the bills coming through the House and the legislature. Everything around us is screaming that this is Egypt. So we've got to think differently, very differently. How often people say, you take your Christianity and just be quiet about it. There would be nothing more that the liberal media would love for that Christians to be silent and put up the white flag of surrender and let us run the country and stay out of civil life and stay out of politics. But what we've got to do is train leaders that know how this country was founded. They must know the scriptures. They must know how to communicate it with passion. But they must know history in order to know future. It's kind of like a long rifle. If you don't have the back, you need 2 sights. If you just have the front sight and no back sight, you won't have much accuracy. If you just have the back sight, no front sight, you won't have much accuracy. You need a back sight, which is like history, and you need the front sight, which is like a prophetic word or a knowledge, or to be able to see into the future, move the chess pieces out a few more moves. When you have a good grasp of history or the historical foundations, and you have something of a foresight for the future, then you're able to speak with aim, with concentration, with strategy, and with accuracy. And we need to be able to teach our young potential leaders the history of our very own country. People tell me, when you stay out of politics, I said, what are you talking about? Well, we don't need God in politics. We're a more secular nation. I said, well, hold on, wait a minute. In 1776, July 4th, we put something out called the Declaration of Independence. And it says these truths are, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and that they have been endowed by their Creator, that's in the Declaration of Independence, that they have been endowed by their Creator, not one another, not by subcultures, but we have been endowed with rights, unalienable rights, among which are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So if we've been endowed by our Creator with such rights, then if we don't know our Creator, we'll miscue the rights. We'll misinterpret the rights. We'll mutate the rights because we don't know the intent of the Creator. We've been endowed by our Creator, and it's right in our Declaration of Independence. The last line. And in support of this declaration, it says, we firmly rely upon the divine providence And we pledge mutually to one another our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. That's the Declaration of Independence, excerpted from the beginning and the last sentence of it. And both of them, it's like a sandwiched in between, talks about our Creator and divine providence. You see, without a firm reliance upon Him and without us understanding His intent, we won't know the rights that we have. And that's why everything is skewed, because they don't want the Creator there. It was in 1796 in the farewell address by George Washington. He said it this way. He said, "It is absolutely impossible to govern this country apart from God and the Bible." You see, our students need to understand that. And we need to understand the intent of why God put America on the map. And we have been put here. We could have been in Afghanistan. You could have been born and living in Beijing, China. But for some reason, God has us living and born at this time in the era of America and in this country. There's a reason. We must make a difference. And we need great leaders with which to do that. Number one, we're living in Egypt. But number two, the second reason why Pacific Rim Bible College is incredibly important is this. 1,500 ministers are leaving the ministry every month. Not every year. Every month, 1,500 leave the ministry. And in the next decade, 30% of the churches in America will require a new pastor. Because if you think about it, the baby boomers in the next 10 years are going to retire. They'll be gone. There's about 400,000 churches in America. 30% of that is over 100,000 pulpits that we'll need to fill. And usually, you know how the pulpits are filled? They have a business meeting and the last one standing gets the church. Do you understand the leadership of tomorrow's church with the changing of the world and the leadership that we may have if we don't start investing? We have a dismal future. So God has raised us up and asks us to be a part of what the future holds. And just like Esther, God just might be saying to us, I chose you for such a time as this. Such a time as this. So with those two things, number one, we're living in Egypt. Number two, so many are leaving the ministry. It's like there is a vacuum. And so we have to think twice. But thirdly, students that go to Bible college, it's not like they're going to Harvard or Oxford or Georgetown. Parents often of these students coming up in our Bible college, the parents aren't necessarily Christians. So they really don't want to support these kids, their own kids, going to a Bible college. I had a piano player come and the parents were upset that he wanted to come to Bible college. He should go somewhere else and make a lot of money or go into business. But to a Bible college, to give your life to ministry, to help others, there's no money in that. And parents balk at wanting to invest. So therefore, we have phenomenal students that made a commitment to follow Christ regardless of the cost, and they're not being supported. Lauren was one. They just either don't have the money or they don't want to support them. Yet they come. And we believe that God will raise up people like you to say, we will be your family. We will believe in you, and we will invest in the future. Because listen, if we don't invest in the future, the potential young leaders will gravitate away from the church and into the business world. Nothing wrong with that, but boy, I tell you, there's going to be a vacuum of church leaders if we don't invest. So that's why Pacific Rim Bible College is incredibly important, especially at this time. And you've been raised up to be friends and ohana and family of Pacific Rim Bible College. Guys doing a great job. The faculty's doing a phenomenal job, but you know they can't do it alone. We're going to have to jump in. And I tell you, if we do, we will be facing a promising future.